All right, we're gonna do E first, guys. So these are notes, remember. So I'm gonna work out these examples. If you want to try them yourself, you can. No one's gonna tell you no, but if you get lost or confused, stop what you're doing because I do not want you to get confused any further. All right, let's take a look at E. Now, part of learning math is when you're being taught a topic or concept, it's important that you're able to be like, okay, this is the part I need to do right here. So for order of operations, can someone remind me in the class, what does the letter P stand for?
Parentheses.
That is correct, the parentheses. And that is right here inside these parentheses. 4 take away 7. Now the problems are going to have positive and negative numbers. As we move forward, it's very important that you understand a positive number is you having money in your bank account. A negative number is you pretty much losing or spending money. So 4 take away 7, it's saying that you have $4 in your account, but you spent 7. So what do you owe your bank after that transaction, class? So 4 take away 7. Now, if mental math's not good for any of you guys, I recommend, thank you, Nick, -3. So there'll be 3 parentheses, -3 plus -2 minus 5. Now, last class, I told you guys that plus minus or plus a negative, that can become one operation. It can simplify. When you're adding a negative number, does anyone remember what it becomes? Does it become an adding problem or a subtracting problem? Plus the negative. Anyone remember?
Subtracting.
Subtracting. Excellent, Nick and Natalie. I appreciate you. So it'll be -2 minus 5. Now we're done with parentheses. There's no exponents, but we do multiply and divide from left to right. This is subtracting, so we're good here. But this is multiplication. 3 times -3 is -9. Because remember, a negative and a positive is negative. It's only positive if the signs are the same. So now multiplication's done. Now we add and subtract from left to right. So look at this -9. Looking at that, we know we owe the bank $9 and we spent an additional 2 and an additional 5. This problem here is someone not knowing how to use money, right? Because if you owe 9 to the bank and you spend another 2 and another 5, what do you owe the bank in total at the end of your shopping spree? Any ideas? That is correct, -16, and we are done. Let's take a look at F. I want to quickly highlight this absolute value. Does anyone remember from high school or middle school when you take an absolute value of a negative or a positive number, the answer always comes out what? Anyone remembers? Now, for those of you that no one remember, or if no one wants to speak up or remember, let's see in the chat. Yeah, there you go, Nicholas. So the absolute value of any number always comes out positive. So I'm gonna bring down this -3, but the absolute value of -5 becomes +5. Now, remember, guys, if a plus minus became when a plus negative became a minus, what do you think a negative negative is going to become? What happens when we have two negatives? It becomes a positive. So it'll be a +2 plus 4 squared. Well, I'm not going to write 4 squared again because we're doing PEMDAS. There's no parentheses, exponents. 4 squared is 16 because it's 4 times 4. And then we're going to be exponents are done. And now we're going to multiply and divide from left to right. So we're going to multiply -3 times +5, which is -15. Bring down the +2 and +16. So this scenario is we owe $15, but we're depositing, we're adding money to our account of $2 and we're adding $16. So when we do that, we only have $3 to our name at the end of our transactions. And we're done with F. Do not be intimidated by all the symbols and parentheses. Understand that they're there to denote a negative. This is showing that it's -3. That's there because it's -2 and so on. So let's look at G now. We're doing G. So the first thing we gotta do is PEMDAS, right? We have two parentheses. We have this parentheses here, and then we have the bracket. We're gonna do the smaller parentheses first in the inside, and then work our way to the bracket, and then simplify the outside. So the inside right here, -1 plus 6. You owe the bank $1, and we deposit 6. So we will have 5 to our name to spend. So I'm gonna write that in there instead of the parentheses, and I'm gonna bring down everything else. Now we're doing this bracket now. So before we can add -3 with the 2, we have to multiply the 2 times the 5. That is very important. So then we're gonna get -3 plus 10. And then simplify the inside. -3 plus 10 is a +7. Does anyone remember what operation happens when we have a number in a parentheses? Are we gonna add, multiply, divide, subtract? We're gonna multiply. So it'll be -2 times 7 is -14 minus 5. Remember the situation with money, -14 means we owe 14, we spend 5, so now we owe the bank $19, and we're done. What questions do we have on these more complex expressions? Any questions at all? Now, these are just regular expressions because there's no variables. There's no X, Y, A, or B. There's no letters. It's just all numbers. So these are just expressions. All right. And here is your first practice problems for today. There's gonna be 3 today. I'm gonna go ahead and give you 4 minutes, and then I'll add more time. Maybe I'll need more time. If anyone has any questions while working these practice problems, feel free to unmute and ask or type in the chat. Y'all can either direct the questions towards me or towards James. And then once you have an answer, remember to type it in the chat or unmute yourself and tell the class what you got for number one, so I can either write it down or if it's in the chat, students can discuss it. So Jacob and Nicholas shared their answers for number one, guys. So if y'all want to say you agree or disagree, remember there's multiple practice problems now. So you have to say, agree. If someone else puts an answer for number two, make sure you're distinctive about which one you agree with. If you agree with number one or number two, but right now only number one's on there. So you could say agree or disagree. But once someone adds an answer for another problems, then you need to specify which one you agree or disagree to. All right, that was a 4-minute timer. Does the class need any more time to work these through? Nick just went ahead and shared for number two. Awesome, awesome. That was the timer for these practice set. Would anyone like additional time, guys, before we go over these problems?
Hey,
How many would like a minute, 2 minute, 3 minutes? How many minutes would you need more? 1, 2, or 3?
3 minutes.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and add 3 more minutes, guys, and then we'll move forward. If you're done with all three during this 3 minutes, use that as a small break. All right, guys. If y'all got these solutions for these practice problems, you got them. Oh, these are all correct. Does anyone need me to work out any of these before we move on? Anyone confused about them or have any questions?
Can you work out number 3?
Yes, I can. All right, let's look at number 3, y'all. So remember to follow your PEMDAS step, right? PEMDAS. So parentheses, we're gonna get the in. Remember, when we have 2 of them, we do the inside ones first, right? The innermost one. So -3 plus 5. So that's gonna be 2. So it'll be 5 parentheses. You owe the bank 3, but you deposit 5, so you have $2 to your name. Bring down everything else. And then we're gonna go ahead, remember, multiplication before addition, right? So we have to multiply 5 and 2. So then we get -6 plus 10. -6 plus 10, you owe the bank 6, but you put $10 in. So you're gonna have $4 to your name. -4 times 4 is -16 minus 7 becomes -23. You owe the bank 16 and you pay, or you bought something for $7 even though you owe the bank, and now you owe them $23. Great question. Any other questions of these practice problems before we move on, guys? All right, let's go ahead and move on. Anyone need an extra few seconds to copy this down, or is everyone good? I was told last class yesterday that I write and talk too fast. So let me know if I'm going too fast or writing too fast, or you need me to repeat something, guys. You don't have to put it in the chat for everybody to see. You can just message me directly if you're not comfortable. I don't mind if everyone sees you telling me to slow down or go again. Like it's not a big deal. I'm here to make sure you guys are comfortable with the topic. All right, let me go ahead and give me a second. Oh, wrong one. Nope. Can I read these problems, guys? Are you able to see them?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna give you about a minute to set up the example. So the topic of this slide is evaluating algebraic expressions. Example, evaluate the algebraic expression for the given values. All right, let's take a look at A. So the algebra, we have 2 different algebraic expressions. We have x squared and then we have -x squared. They want us to find out the values of those 2 expressions when x equals 11. Okay, so for x squared, right? So I would write x squared first, right? In my notebook, write x squared. And what's x? We're saying x is -11. So it'll be parentheses, -11 squared. Now remember the parentheses, class, since they are around the -11 and we know exponent is repeated multiplication. Can someone tell me, how do we view this expression with this value? What's being repeated, multiplied?
The -11.
That's correct. So we're gonna get -11 times another -11. And can someone reiterate to us what 2 negatives do? When we multiply 2 negatives, they become a what? A positive, right? So we get a positive number. 11 times 11 is 121, and we're done. All right, we're gonna, now there is two expressions for A, so we're not done yet. We're now gonna do the second expression, which is negative x squared, which is the same thing as before, but now there's a negative in front of the parentheses. Well, the cool thing is we know what this simplifies to, right? We know what negative 11 squared is. What's negative 11 squared? It's 121, right? So then I'm gonna bring down the 121, but what should be in front of the 121 class? What's still there that did not disappear? The negative sign. Does everyone see that? And that's A. Okay, good, good, good. Now let's take a look at B, right? I'm gonna scoot these down so I have more room to write for B. So let's look at B. Let me switch my colors up. So I'm gonna do this red. So for the first one, so we're gonna do 6z squared, but they want us to find it for two different z's. So it's the same one, but we're gonna do it for each z, right? So let me erase that real quick. So I'm gonna do z equals 2 first. The first one I'm gonna do. All right, and so z equals 2, so we're gonna plug in 2 for z, so then we're gonna get 6 parentheses 2 squared. Now, class, using PEMDAS, am I gonna do 6 times 2 first and then square? Or am I gonna do 2 squared first and then multiply 6? Which route do y'all think we will go? I feel like I sounded like Dora. Like, where do you see Swipey? Yeah, we're gonna do 2 squared first, right? And why 2 squared first though? Why do we know we have to do that? What concept allows us to say 2 squared first for sure? What's the name of today's lesson, or what lesson are we finishing today? 2.5 what?
The order of operations.
That is correct. Because of order of operations, 2 squared has to be done first. So 2 squared is 2 times 2, which is just 4. 6 times 4, which is just 24, and we're done. Then we're gonna go ahead and do z when z equals -2. We're gonna do that one. And then it's gonna be 6 parentheses -2 squared. Now we know the -2 is gonna be repeated, right? Repeated multiplication, -2 times -2, which we know two negatives make a positive. So we're still gonna get a +4, so we got the same thing. What questions do we have so far for A and B? All right, moving on, class. C, we have x plus 2y minus z. So here we have 3 variables. So we're on C now, right? We know x is gonna be 3. And then we know the y is gonna be -5. And then we know that z is -4. So we're gonna go and plug it in. So it'll be 3 plus 2 parentheses -5 minus parentheses -4. All right, remember, this is an example, so I'm gonna go ahead and work through this one, right? Where we have to follow PEMDAS. Awesome, Jen, awesome. And we wanna just work with us with C and D, Genevieve, and then copy down B afterwards, okay? Or take a picture of B so you can do that after we're done with C and D. All right, let's take a look at, we're doing C right now. So we plugged in X, Y, and Z, right? It looks like the same, but we just replaced the numbers that we were given. And now we simplify using PEMDAS. We know that a negative and a negative, it's gonna become a +4. We know that much, right? And I'm gonna bring down the 3 plus, well, we're multiplying 2 times -5. 2 times -5 is -10. And now we have a plus negative. And remember earlier, I was saying, what's a plus a negative? Plus a negative is minusing. So we're doing 3 minus 10 plus 4. Now we have to add and subtract from left to right. Well, we have $3 in our account. We spend 10. So now we owe -7. -7, we deposited $4. So now we owe -$3 and we're done. Now D is meant to be tricky, class, but do not let D trick you, okay? Now let's go ahead and look at D, okay? Remember, D is tricky. Watch me, look at what I'm doing. So we know it's 7 minus x squared, right? And x is gonna be -4. So let's plug it in. So it's gonna be 7 minus parentheses -4 squared. Notice that the minus has to be there because that's in the expression, right? Well, let's go ahead and do exponents, right? Then we're gonna do -4 squared first. And we know -4 is gonna be repeated. Well, -4 times -4, we know 2 negative is gonna make a +16. So then we're gonna get 7 minus +16. Positive, but remember, we're still minusing there. And when we do a minus and a positive, it becomes just a negative. So we don't have to put the plus sign there. It's just 7 minus 16. And then 7 minus 16 is -9. And we're done. Do not let the negative or nor the positive throw you off, all right? Make sure that you understand what you're seeing and what they are asking, and then utilize the examples we've done to help produce the work for new ones. Any questions here before I move on to the practice problems? Because you are gonna have to try these out. And then Jen, were you able to get down C, D, and get a picture for B before I move on? Okay, awesome. All right. Here are these practice problems, guys. Give these a try. Oh, I cannot count. This is a 4. I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys 6 minutes on these. We have some more water. I'm still. I'll be back in a bit. I'll turn on my camera once I'm back. Remember, feel free to ask James for help or ask each other for help. There should be two answers for number one, guys. Two answers for number two. And one answer for 3 and 4. Remember to look at the example we just did. And do not overthink it. Good, that's good, Gabby. Good, Adelaide. I loving the good work, loving the teamwork. All right, class. Would anyone like additional time for the other practice problems, guys?
Yes,
Would y'all need 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes?
3.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and add 3 minutes. All right, that was a 3-minute timer, guys. Are there any questions so far on any of these 4 practice problems? Any confusion on the simplification or any questions on any of the steps so far? Because I mainly saw only 1 and 2 being posted in the chat. So how's everyone doing with 3 and 4?
I'm a little stuck on 3. I got 4, but I'm stuck on 3.
Okay, so let's talk about 3. So for X, we have parentheses -6 squared, right? Plus Y, and Y was -3, right? Now, what happens when we have a plus, a minus? What operation does that become? Does it become addition or subtraction? It's subtraction. Thank you, Adela. Now, -6 squared, what's being repeated, right? -6. -6 times -6. 2 negatives make a positive, so it'll be a positive 36. 36 take away 3 is 33. How was that so far?
Yeah, now I got it. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. All right, and anyone else have any questions with any of these practice problems before I move on? Everyone okay with number 4 and number 1 and number 2? We're good. Speak now or forever hold your truth. Okay, moving on. This is the last example for 2.5. Finding averages. So first write this formula on top. Average equals sum of numbers over the number of numbers. So when you're doing this example, you don't have to write the word problem, guys. So write the formula for average. And then the next thing I want you could write is I want you to write all the numbers down as a list on one line and separate them by commas. Or you could, yeah. Those are the numbers. We'll give you about 2 minutes to set this up in your notebook, and then I'm gonna go ahead and work it out. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So to find the average, we're gonna create an average, a formula, right? So we have average is equal to the sum of the numbers. So it'll be 17 plus -1 plus -11 plus -13 plus -16 plus -13 plus 2 plus 21. Now we remember, we talked about this. A plus a negative is just subtracting, right? So now, and it's gonna be divided by how many numbers there are. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we're gonna divide this by 8. So the next step we know it's 17 minus 1 minus 11 minus 13 minus 16 minus 13 plus 2 plus 21 over 8. And this is going to be from left to right. Remember, we had to use PEMDAS, which we know. So 17 take away 1, 16. 16 take away 11, 5. 5 take away 13, -8. -8 minus 16, -24. -24 minus 13, -37. Plus 2, -35. Plus 21 is 14. Is it 14? Did someone else subtract them? I'm using my calculator. Just to be safe. 17 minus 1 minus 11 minus 13 minus 16 minus 13 plus 2 plus 21 is -14. Yeah, so it'll be -14 over 8 divided by 8, which is -1.75. Any questions on this example, guys, on how to find an average? Everyone understands why we subtracted these numbers, right? Because what kind of numbers were they in the data?
Negative.
Positive.
Negative. Negative. So it was plus -1 plus -11. When we add a negative, we end up subtracting, and that's why we have a negative average. So this is the average degrees for this city, for Alaska. All right. Does anyone have any questions so far for average? I forgot to record, so I'm letting the video record the work. All right. All right. Anyone have any questions on these practice problems, guys? There's no one posted any answers in the chat. Are y'all stuck with these questions or were they easy? Can I get some feedback? Or do I need more time to work through these?
Can I get 1 more minute?
Yeah, of course. Remember to put the answers that you think you got and for each one. That way the class can either agree or disagree with you. Ah, okay. So Nicholas, look at number 3, right? It says x equals all these adding problems, right? These sum, right? But x is already by itself. So all we have to do is kind of simplify the right side. So let's look at the numbers. It's saying -2 plus 90 plus -100. Well, look at the, remember, we have to add and subtract from left to right. But look at the plus negative. We have to get rid of that plus negative. So what do we know about plus negative? That becomes what kind of operation, Nick? Is it an adding problem or subtracting when we simplify the plus negative? There you go. So it's becomes a subtracting problem. So be -100 or -100 and bring down everything else, Nick. Now we add and subtract from left to right. So look at the left number, -2. Remember I told you to think about money when it comes to negative numbers or numbers. So does -2 mean you have $2 or you owe $2? Do you have or owe? You owe, but how much did you deposit in your bank? We're depositing because we're adding money to our bank, right? When you deposit 90, what balance are you gonna have for you to spend in your account? Good. But now what are we doing? Are we spending 100 or are we adding more another 100 to our bank? So we have 88, but we spend 100. Are we gonna have money to still spend or are we gonna owe a balance? What are your thoughts? We're gonna owe, right? How much are we gonna owe, right? So then we'll have to subtract 88 from 100, right? To see what's the leftover balance that we're gonna be owing. Hopefully that breakdown made more sense for you, sir. And then Adelaide got -12 for 3. So we have a -12. Anyone agree with Adelaide? And then we have Jacob got 4 for 1 for y equals. Did anyone get something different or agree with Jacob? And no, can someone give an answer for 2? So then Jacob got -10 for 2. So z equals -10. It's very important when you have a solution for an equation that you have the variable and the equal sign there. Don't just write -10. This will be the answer if it was an expression, but it's not an expression, it's an equation. Does everyone understand that? For the solution for a equation has to have the variable still there, okay? But yeah, these are all correct. Does anyone need me to work out any of these before we move on? It's very important that you guys become comfortable solving for equations. All right, last call. Does anyone need me to explain any of these before we move on, guys? All right, here is the next property we're covering, multiplication property. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys 3 minutes to copy this and the example down, and then we'll begin. All right, guys, so that was the timer. Let's go ahead and talk about what's going on in this property. So we have the multiplication property, right, of equality. So what this property allows us to do is allows us to solve equations that pretty much say that we could multiply a number on both sides and be the same thing, or that we can divide and get the same thing. So let's go ahead and look at example 5. So remember what I said, when we have a number next to a letter, they're being multiplied, correct? So now, since we know that much, what is the opposite of multiplication, class?
Division.
So we're gonna go ahead and divide by both sides. We're gonna go ahead and divide by, so since a -5 and x are being multiplied, the opposite of multiplying -5, we're gonna divide -5. And don't forget to draw your line. And what we do to one side, we do to the other. So now we go ahead and look. So the -5s, whenever we divide the same thing, that becomes a number 1, not a 0, right? So let's go ahead and look at so we get x by it. So we get 1x, right? Because 5 divided by 5 is 1. But we don't, 1x is the same thing as just x. We don't need to include the 1 at all. So let's go ahead and keep going. So then 15 divided by -5, guys, is -3. So then we get x equals -3 because we divided both sides by -5. So now we're gonna check, right? Because we could check that. We know how to check our solutions. We just gotta plug it into the original. So -3, so it'll be -5 parentheses -3 equals 15 question mark. We're plugging in this x for the equation that we were given to solve. -5 times -3 is positive 15. 15 equals 15 is true. So therefore, this is the solution for example 5. Any questions on the properties or the steps we took, guys? Any questions at all? Okay, let's take a look at these examples here. I'm going to go ahead and give you 1 minute to copy these down, and then I'll go ahead and begin working these out. So for example 6, remember that we can move around the equation so that we can rewrite it as 3y equals -27. It means the same thing. So now, how would we get the y by itself, class? What will we do on both sides to get the y by itself? What's happening with the 3 and the y? They're being what? So we're gonna go ahead and divide. Good job, Nick. So we're gonna divide both sides by 3. This becomes 1y or just y, right? -27 divided by 3 is -9. So let's go ahead and check out this bad boy to see if it works out for us. So check. So then we get -27 equals question mark 3 times -9. 3 times -9 is -27, which equals the left side. It's true. So therefore, this is the correct solution. Let's go ahead and take a look at example 7. We're gonna go ahead and divide both sides, right? Because when a number is next to a letter, they're being multiplied. So instead of multiply, we're gonna divide by -12. This cancels out, gives us a 1, right? So 1x or just x. And then a negative and a negative is positive, and there's 3 12s and 36, and we're done. Now we're not done entirely because we have to check our work. So check. So then we get negative 12 parentheses 3 is equal to negative 36 question mark. Well, negative 12 times 3, guys, is negative 36 equals negative 36, which is true. So therefore, we are correct. Now, if you're always getting a true statement when you're checking, more likely you got it right. Or sometimes mistakes happen in the check, right? Sometimes we forget to simplify correctly. Are there any questions on example 6 and 7 before I move on? Any questions on the steps, on the simplifying, on the solving, or the checking? Excellent, guys. That's my thing. Like, if there's no question, that is okay. But I want to make sure y'all are comfortable to ask questions in case you're confused. All right, last example. I'm gonna give you about a 1 minute to copy this down. All right. Okay, so example 8. X over 3, guys. A fraction is another way to divide. So this line right here means that we're dividing by 3. So this means that we are dividing by 3. Now, what is the opposite of dividing, class? We know the opposite of multiplying was division. What's the opposite of division?
Multiplying.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and multiply, right? So I'm put the dot there. So we're gonna multiply. So remember, the opposite of division is multiplication. So we're gonna multiply both sides by 3. What we do to one side, we do to the other. So we're multiplying. Remember, a dot is a way to multiply, and so is parentheses. So these are gonna cancel out and give me x by itself. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6, and we are done. Don't forget that we have to check, right? Check. So it's gonna be negative 6 divided by 3 equals negative 2, question mark. We end up getting negative 2 equals negative 2, which is true. So this is the correct solution. Are there any questions on the step that we just took? All right, let's go ahead and finish off today's lesson real quick with these practice problems, class. This is the last set of practice problems for today. Let's go ahead and finish off strong. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys about 4 minutes, a minute for each equation. Good luck. Don't forget to type your answers in the chat so other students can either agree or disagree with your work. Well, not work, but with your results. The work is in your journal, but the results is what you're posting. All right, let's finish off strong. Excellent, guys. I see Jacob and Nicholas are on point with their problem one. They're moving forward with number 2, 3, and 4, guys. So make sure you're contributing either by putting what you got, whether it's even though someone already put it, put what you got. And if it's the same, people can agree. If you want to just write agree or disagree, you're cool with either one. Now, once other problems are written on there, like the answer for number 2, make sure you write which one you're agreeing or disagreeing to, okay? All right, class, that was the timer. But we're still working through it. These are the last practice problems for today. So how's everyone feeling so far? So, good catch, Adeline. I'm seeing the chat here. You caught something. Good, 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 good. And then who put the other two? Jacob. Jacob's on fire. Let's go, sir. All right. Are there any questions or anyone would like me to work out any specific one of these guys? Or do y'all feel okay with the explanation of these? So let me write. So for number 1, we got y equals -6. For 2, we got x equals -4, y equals +9, and x equals -28. This is what we got for all 4. Noel, how did you get -16, sir? What did you do to get that for number 4? What are the steps you took?
Give me 1 second.
You're good, sir. And you put X, so that's either, yeah, that's number 2, 4.
Oh, I just multiplied wrong.
Okay, good catch, sir. Okay, as long as you're able to catch your mistake. All right. Are there any questions on any of these class? Any questions on what we did, how to solve it, what the solution is, if how to check, anything? Any questions on any components we learned today? All right. There's no question. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording.